I hope everyone had a great day at church. Either you were present at church or you had your video online Zoom church. Either way, I hope you had a great time. Folks, there's a lot that's taking place today in our society. One of the main things that I think that we're all looking at is that our great president, Donald J. Trump, has delivered on all of the promises to the American people. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic that was caused by China, the China virus. And what has our president done? Well, he has managed to get a vaccine out to the American people, not within a year or 8 years, but in 8 months. Now, I know a lot of you are hesitant. You're not sure about this vaccine. You're saying, hey, I'm not going to take it. That's to each his own. But the fact that our president was able to get pharmaceutical companies to jump on top of this with warp speed, Operation Warp Speed is what he's calling this, and get this vaccine out there is phenomenal. Let's not forget who did it, because it wasn't Sleepy Joe or Kamala Harris. It was President Donald J. Trump. So we're going to talk about that and a lot of other things that are taking place. I want to let you know that I have a special guest tonight. Our guest is Joe Collins, 43. He's going to be with us, and he will be talking to us about his campaign match between Maxine Waters. My co-host tonight is Trust God 7733 Bebe, and as always, at Small Town Andrew, he's going to try to join us. At the bottom of the hour, joining me will be the Charles Downs, who participated in a Trump rally this weekend. And some of you might remember that he participated in a rally right after the election, and he and his girlfriend were unfortunately assaulted by people on the left. Not good. Not good at all. So without further ado, let me open up my guest and my co-host. Bebe, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Glad to have you. And Joe, how are you? How's it going, man?
No, everything is going good. How are you?
Great, great, great. So, Joe, we're so glad you could join us tonight because we want to know all about you and your campaign. Mainly, I want to know what the heck is going on in California, or what's not going on in California under Maxine Waters, or as the left like to refer to her as Auntie Max. Talk to us, Joe.
Well, I'll tell you this, there's not a lot going on. There hasn't been a lot going on in a very long time, which is why we decided to challenge her. We ran a really good campaign against Maxine Waters. We actually got her to come out and campaign against us, which is something that has never happened before in the history of Maxine Waters. We understand what we were going into. You're talking about an entrenched incumbent who has never been defeated, 45 years in office, total from assembly to Congress. And, it was really great. We did get cheated this election, so we are going to be challenging our election results. We filed a lawsuit this week in court, and we'll see what happens.
Wow. So you guys are filing a lawsuit also. So she's been in office for God knows how long. There's been no changes in California, South Central. You grew up in South Central. What has changed since you were a kid?
A few things that has changed. It's been a few changes. The first thing is the homeless population has went up. The second thing is they're gentrifying people out of the community without providing jobs for people to be able to live through the gentrification. And we got a football team now. Outside of that, not much has changed, and this is why we need new, younger leadership to be able to take the helm and be able to represent our district in a manner that's going to be beneficial for the people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Baby, what do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Joe Collins for his service. You were in the U.S. Navy for 13 years, if I understand correctly. That's outstanding.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I watched your video, Mansion Maxine. One of the things I did not know was that she does not live in a 43rd district and where you are. Can you speak to that, please?
A lot of people didn't know that Maxine didn't live in the district. They thought she did. They thought Maxine actually cared about them, and the end result was we had to show them that Maxine is living better than the people that are living in the district. My biggest concern was for a person who represents a district, it will behoove you to live in that district so you can see what the people go through. Right now, with Maxine being in office for a very long time, she's been entrenched and she's disconnected from the issues that we go through in the 43rd district. I have been in the military, served 13 and a half years. I got out the end of 2017, moved back to South LA, and the conditions of the district was terrible. Outside of that, I was a homeless vet. You know, it takes a long time. I don't think people understand this to get your benefits for you to either be able to work or find out if you permanently disabled and cannot work. And so with me getting out the military, I asked Maxine to help me, reached out to her plenty of times, and I still haven't gotten a response. Yeah. And we have a lot of homeless veterans that are living on the streets. And her motto is, I'm fighting for everyone. And we know that's false because on any given day, in California, we have 155,000 people sleeping on the streets, and 60% of those people are Black. And she's supposed to be the martyr for Black America, but it's not showing because the results of her leadership is 43% of the people are living 25% below the poverty level. We have the worst education in the United States, number 48 out of 50 states. That's where we're ranked. Jobs are leaving California. Our crime rate is high. We're the #1 sex trafficking hub, #1 human trafficking hub. And this is the result of the leadership of Maxine Waters. And I feel like us and the rest of the people in our district deserves better.
No, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Bebe. I want to make sure that I understand correctly. You said that when you came out that you were homeless for a while, you reached out to her and you got nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the heck is she doing? She's living in a mansion. She's sending jobs, or she's sending money to her husband and her daughter or granddaughter or whatnot. But when it comes to someone who served this country, she can't return a freaking phone call. She can't say, hey, do this or do that. Completely unacceptable. And this is a problem that I have with these Black politicians, these liberal Black politicians that do absolutely nothing for the community but want your vote. And then they want to cry the race card. This is unacceptable. Go ahead, Bebe. Completely unacceptable.
It reminds me of Cory Booker, who's now Senator Booker from the state of New Jersey. When he was mayor of Newark, he didn't actually live in Newark. So these Black politicians, these Black liberals, they're exploiting us, basically. That's what they're doing. I mean, for her, even if someone from her staff had gotten back to you, Mr. Collins, and said, well, this is what you should do, somebody should have gotten back to you. There's no excuse, but they're using us to enrich themselves for money and for power. But I would,
go ahead. This is that's been going on for a very long time. What they've done is they've gotten people in our communities comfortable with living in poverty, comfortable with living a mediocrity life, and comfortable with complaining about things that are going on and promising people who live in our district the world without being able to provide that. That's why it's important that we step up, not just step up, but have a plan to improve the quality of life of the people who live in our district.
Right. And she does not live in the district. She's living in a mansion. And it seems as though she could care less. The only thing she was doing was telling people to rise up and look at Trump supporters and tell them you're not welcome and to get out of town. The woman can barely speak coherently. Okay. She can barely speak coherently, but she's always out there as they refer to her as being Auntie Max. But what has she done for the people? What has she done for veterans like you? Absolutely nothing. But yet and still, we, Black people, keep voting for them back into office over and over again, and then we expect a great change. How can she give you a change if she's out of touch? It makes absolutely no sense.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you this. When she tells people, when she stood up on her platform and she says, Republicans are not welcome here, push back, cause violence onto them, she was really serious about that. Throughout our entire 2020 election, we've had to deal with Maxine sending people like gang members with guns to our events where we're doing our backpack drives or food drives. We've been harassed multiple times by Maxine. She's ranked slander campaigns. And I mean, like, she's the worst of worst politicians. And I think her mental state is no longer there. I mean, she reminds me of Joe Biden. She spits a lot of gibberish.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think that she's serious about the violence that she wants to cause to people who support our president. and she doesn't respect our opinions. And this is something that, in my opinion, I think the House of Representatives needs to hold her accountable for. Her words, her actions, her influence that she has over people is very powerful. But she's not the type of person that should be going around saying, give violence to these people, hate these people, push back on these people for an opinion.
Absolutely not. And see, what happens is that when you corner a badger, the badger strikes out. She knows that she's in the corner. She knows that there is young blood that's out there. And I'm surprised that the young people can't see through Auntie Max, who does absolutely nothing, who has done nothing. Has her name been on any signature bills? Absolutely not. What she has done is enrich herself and her family. I guess she's gotten a whole collection of wigs. I didn't even know that was a wig that she was wearing until someone called it out. But hey, it is what it is. But it shouldn't be that way. I think she's in her 80s. She's either 79 or 80. It is time for her to step down and let a new generation come in. This old generation is still, we're going to march. They still have us enslaved, and they're still doing this. It's always about they. Okay, but what have you done for me lately, Maxine? Go ahead, Bebe. She's done absolutely nothing.
Exactly. I was looking at one of your videos in which you outraged her. Did I understand you? And then she sent goons to your campaign. Can you touch on that, please?
Yeah, we had a very aggressive fundraising campaign. There's a lot of people in the district and across the United States who want to see Maxine gone. We raised $10.4 million in our campaign. We used the majority of that money to give back to the community. We gave away over 300,000 pounds of food. We did job fairs to give jobs away to people who live in the community. We did back to school drives. We did backpack drives. And these are things that we did on a regular basis. We even had events for veterans, and at every single event that we had, Maxine always sent her people to harass us, and it was uncalled for. I've never been to a Maxine Waters event and harassed Maxine or her people. I let her do whatever it is she does. But Maxine, she's one of the dirtiest players when it comes to politics. She's an old battle axe. She's a tough opponent. And we've absolutely, I believe that we won that race, which is why we are going to court to ensure that we had a legitimate race and the integrity of our election system is still intact, which from what we've been seeing across the United States is not the case. Yep. I don't mind losing, but I do mind being cheated.
Yep. And I agree with you 100%. And a lot of people don't understand it. They want to come out and say, oh, you lost, get over it, yada, yada, yada. It's like, no, like you said, if I lost, I want to lose fairly. But when we know that there were malfeasance around the state that was taking place, it's not acceptable. And it's not just, hey, did I lose? We want to make certain that the integrity of the election was intact. And what we see right now, it was far from that. Ballots being bussed in, ballots being found on the benches and chairs and trucks. This is always the case. And people expect us just to roll over conservative Republicans. We have got to start pushing back. And one of the things I want with you is that, the that's in the Republican Party and how the Republicans have got to start and supporting candidates like yourself. And I mean, let's just face it, the Republican Party of the old was a bunch of old white men. Okay, the country is diverse now. We have got to get more, not just people because of their skin color or their gender, but people that can get the job done. And you, my friend, seem to be a person with fire in the belly and can get the job done to against and challenge an old institution like Maxine Waters. Again, I look at her record. What has she done besides get on the floor and say, I'm reclaiming my time? And then people think that's like some great statement, but it's like, what has she done for you? Besides come out and wear new wigs. What has she done for you? Besides come out and speak a lot of gibberish. What has she done for you? Absolutely nothing. And then these communities are still suffering. I say to my fellow Republicans, you got to start investing in the new blood. They might not win the first time. They might not win the second time. But there's always a tomorrow and the next day. They have got to start investing the money in these people. Look at the Democrats. Look at AOC or whatever she calls herself. I mean, the woman, she can barely write herself out of her paper bag, but yet and still she's on the Hill pontificating a bunch of craziness. Whereas we have people like you who can come out, talk about the plan. Like here, I was looking at your my 5-point plan to fix Congressional District 43. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, the 5-point plan was something that I put together after surveying a district to find out what's the best way to start rebuilding our community. How can we get back to a productive society that's going to benefit everyone? And that's how we came up with the 5-point plan. And one of the biggest things that the 5-point plan does is it tackles the homelessness issue. When we talk about bringing jobs back, when we're talking about improving the relationship between the law enforcement and the communities, when we talk about bringing financial literacy and things of this nature, these are things that we need. These are things that we have been lacking in the inner city for a very long time. And so now I think that it's time to get back to what makes America great. And that is the things that we brought up in our 5-point plan. With this 5-point plan, we'll curb the amount of gang violence that we have. We'll curb the amount of homelessness that we have. We'll curb the amount of people living below the poverty line. And so this is why we came up with this plan.
It's like a good plan.
Yeah, I looked at the plan.
Bebe.
I looked at the plan, before the show, and it was very impressive. Rebuild the district, quality education, high-paying jobs. I'm paraphrasing. Promote financial literacy, which you just said, and end homelessness. California has one of the highest homeless rates in the entire United States. Am I not correct?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. Yes.
Wow, this is something else.
And what is your governor doing? What is Governor Newsom doing besides bringing in more homeless, adding to the problem, shutting down restaurants while he's out partying on the town? This is completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable. He's partying while people are suffering. He's partying while people don't have a place to stay. He's partying. Meanwhile, he's allowing the homeless population, drug addicts, and everything else to increase. I spoke to a dear friend of mine. They said that San Francisco looks like, and unfortunately, excuse my language, a shithole. And that's what it smells like. This is unacceptable. And these are the things that Democrats bring to the table. These are the things that people like Maxine Waters bring to the table. And then they want to come out and say, we need more Black people. We need more Black people in politics. You're doing the same thing. She, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, the exact same thing over and over again. And you can't challenge them because if a white person challenges them, it's about racism. Whereas when you come out and you challenge them, you don't get coverage. No one wants to cover you. Why?
Wow.
The liberal media will not cover you, yet and still they will talk about racism. I look at the other Blacks that were running. No coverage at all. But the moment a Black liberal runs, oh, this is the greatest thing. This is a first is out there challenging Auntie Max, absolutely nothing. And I would say to Black people, if you keep voting for the same politicians over and over again and expecting a change, you're crazy, you're blind, and you deserve what you get. Absolutely nothing. It is time for a change. It is time that we start looking at these politicians like yourself, Joe, and say, hey, this person will make a difference. This person is coming in with new blood. This person sees our pain. Nancy Pelosi, what's her name? Maxine Waters, she sees it. She seems to gloat in it because she knows, hey, they'll vote for me again. They're not going to kick me out. Gangs to intimidate you? Who is she, the head gang leader? Probably so. This is bad. This is
she tries to be, but she tries to be. But this is the type of leadership that we've been getting from the Democratic Party for a very long time, and so this is something that is to be expected. Unfortunately, bad things got to happen to good people in order for us to wake up and see that it's time for a change. And with the gangs, with Maxine Waters, with Gavin Newsom, with the major hypocrisies that we're seeing here in California, between the people who make the laws and the people who are quote unquote supposed to follow the laws, This is what we've been getting for a very long time. And so now it is time to change. It is time to start electing new officials. And I would encourage young people to step up and start taking these leadership roles in our countries. It doesn't matter what your political party preference is. The only thing that matters is, do you want to see us progress, and can you come up with a plan? Because the older politicians, they're not getting it done. They're stuck in the 60s and the 70s where we have this post-Jim Crow era. You can see it when Maxine talks. You can see it with, when Elijah Cummings used to talk. You can see it when Nancy Pelosi used to talk. And these old ways that they have are not working anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of people are holding on to the past, but it's time to let go and move forward with the future. Rob, let me tell you this. My mother used to tell me when I was a kid, I can do anything that I wanted to do as long as I worked hard for it. She never told me that I can do anything that I wanted to do as long as I wasn't a Republican. That has never came out of her mouth. So even the hypocrisy from the people that I see in the district who says, well, you're great, but you're Republican. It gets on my nerves, because what if somebody was telling that to your child? You could be whatever you want to, but as long as it's not a Republican, and this is a message that we have to start getting out to our people. It doesn't matter. Be a Republican, be a Democrat, be an independent, but be the best that you can be as long as you want to see us grow and prosper. Absolutely. But we seem to have this crabs in the barrel mentality where somebody makes it up, and instead of encouraging that person to pull everybody up, they bring that person down. You can't do it because you're a Republican. You can't do it because you're black. And if you're black, you can't do it because you're a lighter black than this black. And you can't do it because you're a darker black than this black. And you can't do it because if you're a Republican, you're a sellout, or you're an Uncle Tom. Mind you, the majority of the people who use that analogy of Uncle Tom gets it wrong every single time, which publicly displays the ignorance of the people that we have that are throwing these insults. Because if anybody ever read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, then they would know that Samboa was a person that was holding people back, and Uncle Tom was a person that was learning from his experiences and helping black people. He was the one who started the school to help black people get ahead. So the ignorance that we have in our community is beyond reproach, and it's time for that to start to change.
Wow, Joe, you just nailed it. I mean, you said a lot, my friend. You said a lot. People have got to get out there and get involved. Joe, what got you interested in politics? I mean, you have the fever, you have the fire. It's like you're running out there. What got you interested?
Well, I was a U.S. Navy veteran. I served 13 and a half years in the U.S. Navy. And we have a lot of issues in the United States, especially the inner cities. When I saw President Trump run, I saw the younger vote was not being heard. The younger people were not being heard. And I wanted to be a voice for the younger people. I wanted to be an encouraging factor for young people to get up and get involved in our political process. And so, I kind of put my career on the line and chose to get involved in politics. And the military allowed me to get out of the military to pursue politics, which is a great idea. And that's how I got started. Wow. And I started off as a presidential candidate because I knew being in the military, you cannot get involved in partisan political activities. So I became a presidential candidate. I learned so much about politics in that short amount of time. And the administration, they told me, all right, it's time for you to choose a different path. And I chose to run for Congress because I'm from South LA. And I've seen that the leadership under Maxine Waters has been failing our district for a very long time, 45 years in office. And they're still calling South Central Los Angeles the hood. In my opinion, that's unacceptable. And so I want to be that beacon of light. I want to be that leadership factor for young America. I want to be the fire like JFK was in his days when he was a president of the United States, to get younger people involved in politics.
Wow.
Joe, I want to go back to the fact that, and I applaud you for your service. I noticed that you were you're a certified counselor for rape and sexual assault victims, and that's awesome. I think that's dynamic. You're a people person, you care. I applaud that. I want to go back to the fact that you're going to challenge this election, which is great. Were Dominion voting systems used in the 43rd district?
Dominion voting systems were not used in the 43rd district. We had Smartmatic voting systems that were used in the 43rd district. Smartmatic comes out of Venezuela, and the Dominion is ran by China out of Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Wow.
So Smartmatic and Dominion are actually connected. I believe the Smartmatic software is used in Dominion. So that's something I'm glad you're going to pursue that, because there was obvious cheating. I believe California turned red, but because of what in the U.S. Postal Service, the voting machines, and election clerks who wanted Joe Biden to win or the Democrats to win, I think some shenanigans went on. And now I understand
Yeah.
why long-term Democrats like Maxine Waters barely campaign. They don't have to,
Right.
because I think the fix is in.
Right.
Am I wrong, Joe?
I don't think in this instance the U.S. Postal Service for California had anything to do with this election. They are slow. Unfortunately, we know the mail system is slow. The issue was Gavin Newsom sent mail-in ballots to everybody, and the court actually issued an injunction 3 days before the election for him not to send mail-in ballots, and he did it anyway. And so I think that was one of the major causes, along with the algorithms for the Smartmatic or Dominion voting systems, which changes the voting structure for Democrats versus Republicans. And also, when you send mail-in ballots to everybody that are in the United States or that are in California, the ability to cheat is absolutely there. You have the ability for the dead people to vote. You have the ability for illegal immigrants to vote. You have ability for people who no longer live in California to have ballots to vote also. And the thing with the machines is the machines does not verify signatures. And so you have hundreds of thousands or millions of votes going in with signatures that are not being verified, citizenships that are not being verified, the rate of death or alive that these persons are not being verified. And so these are causes for concerns, which we're going to bring up with the court in order to, in my district, force them to recount the ballots, hand count the ballots, and verify the signatures. And I think this is well within our rights to do so. If we are talking about having a fair elections, I think that everyone's voice should be heard. Unfortunately, the problem that we have in California now is the cost to recount is so high that it makes it virtually impossible for any candidate to be able to do a legitimate recount. And so now, with going to the courts, taking a page out of President Trump's book and taking a page out of other successful leaders who have done this process book, we can actually challenge the election results through the court system.
Wow. This is just unbelievable. Everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, people were cheating. And it's unacceptable. I gotta see it. It's just unacceptable. This is the United States of America. This is the hand
we've been dealt, though.
This is the United States of America.
Are you planning to run again? Whether you win or lose the runoff or the challenge, will you run again? Is it something? Because I know a lot of newcomers, I guess you get discouraged or whatever, but I want you to stay encouraged because you really care about that community. Will you run again? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already filed our paperwork to run again. My team is on break, and we went to DC. We went to go support the president twice, and now we're in Atlanta. We're about to do a seminar for the effects of the COVID-19 vaccine on the Black and Brown communities. We have a lot of excitement in our community right now with our election, and we had a lot of people who voted prematurely with the mail-in ballots, and they said, "Had we talked to you before, we would have voted for you." So yeah, we absolutely we were able to flip over 50,000 Democrats to vote Republican in this election. So that tells me that we're getting a lot of traction. 80,000 votes on a cheated election is pretty good, in my opinion. Our team is excited about it. We're going to continue to grow, going to continue to move forward. That's our plan. We are going to run again, regardless of the outcome of this election, because giving up is not an option. Our people deserve better. And I don't want more people to get discouraged. It's not about me. It's about the people who live in the community. If I quit, people in the community get discouraged because we were that beacon of light, regardless of, me being a Republican in the D+54 district. And so we want to keep everybody in the 43rd district encouraged. Unfortunately, right now, Maxine is still currently the representative, but we are still doing her job, and people love it. And hopefully they will see that, Maxine, she's getting old. She is aged. She's disconnected from the community. And a lot of people, they're really ready for a really good leader, but they want to vote for someone who they know. I think this past election gave an opportunity to get to know me as well as they can. And we are still very visible in the community. I have an open door policy, just like I did in the military. And we're still going to continue to be a fighting force for the 43rd District.
That's great. And what are people saying on the grounds in the 43rd District? What are they saying about you running, about Maxine? And I know that there are a lot of probably older people that support her, and they're probably influential on some of the younger generation. But what are you hearing from the young people on the ground?
Well, for the younger people, they're excited to have someone who is young running for office. This is the first time a lot of young people are actually voting, which is great. And it's a challenge to get them to vote for you when their family has so much influence on who they vote for. But the fact that they voted, the fact that they actually took an opportunity to let their voice be heard was really encouraging and inspiring to me. And from the older generation, what they wanted to hear was more about how we were going to take care of the community, a lot of changes that we want to make. And so I think these are things that we can incorporate into our plan to win a 43rd District.
Great. This is just awesome. I'm so glad that we have young blood that's out there. As Bebe said, we need people like you. We want you to stay encouraged. We want you to keep going. We want you to fight the fight, because that's what it's going to take. Eventually, these old dinosaurs have to retire. It's just unfortunate that when they do retire, there are so many issues that they leave behind. I mean, you look at California, you have Nancy Pelosi, you have Maxine Waters, you have Dianne Feinstein. What do they all have in common? They're all old dinosaurs. Someone was saying the other day that Dianne Feinstein, that she's incoherent, that when she goes to these different hearings, that they have to send an aide to be there with her. Now, it's interesting that they're saying this now, because about a year ago, they weren't saying this. And from what I'm hearing, they said this has been in existence for 7 years. But yet, and still, the media made her seem as if though she's a badass. They make Nancy Pelosi seem as if though she's a badass. These are 80-year-old broads. No, yes, there are people who are in their 80s who have all their faculties, and they're on point and they're sharp. But we can see for ourselves, our own eyes, when we see them on TV, that they're not exactly there. Just like Joe Biden isn't exactly there. But they want to tell us that, oh no, he has a stumbling problem. He stutters. No, that's not stuttering. That's senility. Come on, get with the program. He's not stuttering. He's forgetful. He doesn't know if he's going or coming. He doesn't know if it's Sunday or Wednesday. That's the issue. The same thing with Dianne Feinstein. I mean, and they're only now calling out on Dianne Feinstein because she worked so closely with Lindsey Graham and getting Amy Coney Barrett approved for the Supreme Court. So now they want to come out and attack her and say, oh, no, she's old. No, she's been old. Okay, folks, she just didn't turn old. She's been old. And I'm just waiting for the tide to change or to turn on Maxine Waters. I mean, these people, it aggravates me, and I'm very passionate about this. I'm extremely passionate. That is the reason why I'm glad that we have young blood like you, Joe, that's out there, that's fighting the fight, because we need you out there, and people need to see that you're out there so that they can stop saying, oh, that there's no one out there, there's no there are people that are running for the media. Newsmax, plug in for them. Folks, look at Newsmax. Look at One American News, okay, because they're going to tell it like it is. Fox, I mean, they're struggling right now, and rightfully so, for the malfeasance that they committed. But Joe, I got to tell you, stay in the race, fight the good fight, because eventually it's going to happen. And we need people like you to just keep picking at that big dinosaur and picking at it until the dinosaur eventually falls over, because she's not doing anything, and it's sad. It is sad, that part of LA. And what has she done? What has she done to lift the people out of the pain and the suffering, yet and still she wants to vote? And as you said, Bebe, did she even campaign? No, because she knew, hey, I got this all wrapped up.
Right.
Well, she came out and campaigned against us this time.
Oh, she did?
First time, yeah, this is the first time in a long time she's actually campaigned against anybody. Yeah, we brought her outside. We brought her out to the streets, and we drug her pretty good.
Well, that's good.
And people were shocked. People were really shocked to hear her. She ran it was a slander campaign. She never talked about what she was going to do for the community aside for the same old lies. I'm going to, impeach Donald Trump or give you some more money. But when it comes to actual things that you can things that you can like tangibles, you know, jobs, education. It was none of that. He was dishonorably discharged. He got kids. He this, he that, and it was
Oh my God.
probably the worst advertisement I've ever seen. But I'm gonna tell you this: I was excited, and the reason why I was excited because for an entrenched incumbent to come out and actually say your name, the first time she ran an advertisement, I heard her say my name 6 times in a 1-minute advertisement. Wow. That lets me know that we were actually making a lot of headway, and there was the opportunity that she could lose. And also, you know, whenever they did, we had our election party, right? And soon as they started counting 115,000 votes for Maxine Waters. Now, I'm not stupid. And I watched them count the votes during the primaries. Never in the history does voting open up with people already having votes. So how does this happen? It takes time. It takes hours, you know, for the vote count to reach that high. So she came out with 115,000 votes, and we probably had like 1,000 people at our party. It was like, wait, this is not right. You know, and so there was a lot of cheating going on this election, and there was a lot of people in our community who were really pissed off about it. And so we're going to get to the bottom of it. But yeah, we drug Maxine out to campaign. She don't have a huge team, so she was actually out herself handing out her little pamphlets. We saw her at a few events. She didn't know they were my events, but we showed up, and then she avoided me like the plague and everything as she passed out her slander material. And we actually filed a lawsuit against Maxine, a slander lawsuit, slander and defamation of character, for running a slanderous campaign, saying I was dishonorably discharged. As a member of Congress, it's egregious that she would say anything like that, because you have the ability to go look at our record, which is public information, and it's actually really accessible to people like Maxine Waters who are in Congress to see that I was never dishonorably discharged. So we did file a lawsuit. And I guess she thought it was a joke because she didn't respond. So in about 2 weeks, we'll be going to mediation for that to find out how much, you know, we're going to hit Maxine over the head with for that lawsuit as well. And so, I mean, we have a lot of positive things going on. We just filed our ethics complaint against Maxine Waters as well for her sending guys with guns to our events. We have police reports and all type of information to be able to prove that. And so however it goes, we're going to force Maxine Waters to retire because it's about that time.
It's about time. And just speaking with guys with guns and her sending people out, we have someone else who's joining us, the Charles Downs, who actually participated in a Trump rally this weekend. And if some of you remember, he was on with us about a week or so ago. He and his girlfriend were at one of the Trump rallies, and they were assaulted, believe it or not. And it was caught on camera. It was most unfortunate. And I don't think at this point, the individuals that assaulted them have been captured or apprehended. You know, this kind of stuff cannot continue. And like you said, Joe, she's sending out thugs to intimidate you. So without further ado, let me just get Charles in here. Charles, welcome to the panel. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. So much energy in DC yesterday. It was so inspirational to see that people didn't let Antifa's past actions deter them from going out and marching for their president. And let me just say, Joe, I understand your pain just being attacked, and I thank you, because someone has to stand up to Maxine Waters, who's just paying her daughter insane amounts of consulting fees, just setting a terrible precedent for everyone else on the Hill. So thank you for your fight against her on that. But the energy in DC was, like I said, was just tremendous this weekend and really invigorating. I know the Supreme Court case wasn't what we wanted on Friday, but just to see how enthused everybody is, I think gave me, and I think a lot of other people, a lot of hope. But sadly, Antifa did show up this weekend, I'm sure, as a lot of you read in the news.
They showed up and they showed out, unfortunately. You know, I just want to say right now, and I think Bebe will agree with me, we want to thank you folks, the both of you. Bebe and I, we're not that old, but we can tell that you guys are very young, and to be involved in politics the way you are and willing to carry that banner in spite of everything that's happening, people threatening you and being negative, for you two young men to be out there at the front lines, we applaud you, because this is what we need. We need young blood in the Republican Party. We need you out there. We need for you to carry that banner and move forward. What do you say, Bebe?
No, I totally agree, and I appreciate the patriotism, the passion, willing to stand up for this country, because this is what we need right now. So I applaud you, Charles, for going out there to stand up for President Trump. He needs our support. One of the questions, and I don't know, how do we change the brainwashing done by the Democrats? You know what I mean? I just want to get your thoughts on this, Joe, particularly in the Black community and our college age students. Any thoughts on that? I mean, because we're raising a generation, and I don't want to be melodramatic, but of Marxists.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you and Charles, you guys are exceptions, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Your thoughts, please.
Well, from my opinion, I think the change has to come through legislation when it comes to how the young people are being indoctrinated in school and in college, grade school and in college. That's the only way that can be able to change. As far as having a presence in the inner cities, we as Republicans, we just have to get out there. We have to get out there and we have to have conversations with these people. I've had plenty of run-ins with Black Lives Matter, not violent. We shut down a lot of Black Lives Matter protests from Minneapolis all the way to, Los Angeles. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to be leaders and be able to get in front of these organizations and find out what the issues are and be able to come up with plausible solutions for these issues that's going to benefit both sides. That's the only way I can see things happening positively. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of leaders that want to do that want to push that narrative. And if you do push that narrative, everyone has something to say about you. But this is what we've been doing in California. We've been working on police reform. We've been working on, bringing jobs back so we can quell some of the violence when it comes to people and the ideas of systemic racism, or when it comes to not having same opportunities as others because of the conditions that our communities are in. Unfortunately, Democrats did this to us, but it takes casual conversation. I think that we have to lower the amount of hate that is getting pushed out in our communities, because it's affecting us on both sides, Democrats and Republicans. We have Republicans that are reacting to the hate that the Democrats are bringing, and Democrats are reacting to the hate that the media is pushing. So we just have to lower the temperature a little bit and start coming to the table with conversations and solutions.
Now, let me just add on to that what Bebe was asking you, and you had mentioned, you said that you've encountered Black Lives Matter. What do they say when they see you, a Black man, a strong Black man, running on the conservative ticket? What do they say? Are they intimidated? I mean, you're in the Army, so they're probably afraid of you, but what do they say? What do they have to say to you?
A couple of times they call us, sellouts or Uncle Toms or whatever. But at the end of the day, nobody else is fighting for them. You see the Black Lives Matter or the Antifa organization are actually turning on Democrats now because they see that policies are not being passed. That's going to benefit the communities that they live in. But after a while, compliments and negative comments all sound the same to me. The only thing that matters to me is being able to bring plausible solutions to our communities, and that's what we've been able to do. We let these guys know that you cannot come to South LA and try and destroy us. So you can protest all you want to. We don't care. That's a right that you have that's protected by the Constitution. But when it gets violent, we do work with the sheriff department and we run those guys completely out of town. They get arrested or they get beat up by the gangs, because we work with the gangs as well. The gangs, a lot of times they want to protect the communities that they live in as well. So it only makes sense for them to work with us and for us to work with the sheriff's department to come together, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And unfortunately, we don't want our communities destroyed because they're poor communities. And we know that the city and the state are not going to rebuild our communities. So for us, we run them out of town, but then we come back with solutions to problems that people think are major issues, which are in fact really, really small problems in my opinion. But I mean, I don't necessarily listen to what people say about me anymore. What we do is we hear it, we take it on board. What can we do to solve the problem?
Wow. And Charles, what do you say? Because like I said, you have been at these rallies and being attacked, which some people would just give up. But as you were telling us in our when you appeared on our show the last time, that you're not giving up and you're a soldier and you're moving forward. So what are your thoughts on the matter, on the subject?
So this time in our country is so important, and people just cannot give up, because like I've been saying, we're at a crossroads in society. The left is working super hard, whether it's with Antifa to stomp out dissent with physical violence, or it's a Democrat establishment using Twitter algorithms and mail-in ballots and threats of packing the Supreme Court to stomp out dissent legislatively or with big tech. And we're so close to where if the Democrats take full control, that they're going to pack the Supreme Court and they're going to move society and they're going to empower Antifa and they're going to move society so far left that it's going to take decades and generations to fall back and win back. And this is not the time to be silent. And this is the time to, I think, really take a stand. And for me personally, I think it's really time for anyone who's ever been assaulted by Antifa or BLM in Washington, D.C. to really come forward and take a stand. I saw a lot of horrific videos this past weekend of what Antifa was doing. And let me tell any of your listeners that if you were involved in any of that, please look me up on my social media. It's at the Charles Downs all across the board. DM me. Let's meet up. Let's create a group. And let's take a stand and let's win back our First Amendment rights in Washington, D.C., because that's where it starts. And to put it another way, if you lose your First Amendment rights in Washington, D.C., it's not going to be much longer until you lose your First Amendment rights in Los Angeles, California, and then Atlanta, Georgia, and then Cincinnati, Ohio, and it will spread from there. So I think it's so important for conservatives to mobilize together right now. We have about a month and a half to do so before it's too late.
Absolutely. Now, Charles, could I just get you to show everyone your shirt? I like your shirt.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I got this at the rally, fake news. And I got this shirt actually because if you watch the video, my girlfriend was assaulted by an Antifa paramedic on screen. This individual was so crazed, he was going to hit a woman on screen. And the news is running around saying pandemic frontline workers are so important, but they don't care to cover the frontline worker who smacked a woman on TV. And
unbelievable.
my thinking is, you know what, if this individual is crazy enough to smack someone in front of cameras, and if they have a real job as a paramedic or a nurse, or God forbid, a doctor, and someone comes in with a Trump hat, or there's an accident and they have a Trump bumper sticker, are they going to treat them? Or if they come into the hospital with coronavirus symptoms, are they going to treat them fairly if they're wearing a fake news t-shirt or something like that? And I think this is very valid points that the media needs to be acting on. There should be op-eds in the Washington Post if it was fair, but obviously it's not, so there's none.
Right.
That's the premise behind my t-shirt. Thank you.
Right. It's a complete blackout of the real news. I had a taping earlier today, and I was speaking with a gentleman about the media and how they try to suppress, or not try, but they do suppress information that's coming out from the right, and it make it seem as if though this has never happened. He and I were talking about the election, and he was saying, "Well, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?" And I was saying, "Well, even if you were to see the evidence, you would say there is no evidence." I'm like, the evidence is there, but it's not coming from CNN and MSNBC or the Washington Post. So you would say that no evidence has been presented when it actually has been presented. And if you have big tech and the media suppressing the information, then you would say there's no evidence. Look at Hunter Biden. I mean, that in itself. I mean, can you believe that when this story came out, Tony Bobulinski was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. Now Fox News is running this interview over and over again. I think when he first did the interview, they didn't think much of it. But now that it has come out, has been investigated by the Department of Justice since 2018. All at once, they're saying that this is credible information. No, it was credible when it first came out there, when the New York Post reported on this story. It was credible when Twitter tried to suppress it, and they banned or silenced the New York Post for putting the story out there, because they didn't want anyone to hear the story out of fear that it might affect Joe Biden during the election. It wasn't Russia disinformation, as 100 former Intel men said. Intel workers had said that, this is Russian disinformation. We can't prove it, but that's what it looks like. And then everyone else started saying, I put this up on my Twitter account. You have everyone from CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, all saying Russia disinformation. They wouldn't know what Russia disinformation was if it were to come up and slap them across the face. Okay, but they're saying that it was Russia disinformation. Now, what do you guys say? Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, Chris Cuomo, you guys aren't journalists. You're barely talk show hosts. You yourselves are Russia propaganda machines. And this is probably what China wanted. They wanted you guys to say that it was Russia disinformation because they were able to further their grasp into American politics. Look at Eric Swalwell. And still, I haven't figured out if he's swallowing or choking. But he wants to come out and he wants to say Russia disinformation. He said that from 2016 up until, I want to say, a month before all this came out, that he was going around with bang, 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 and God knows what they were doing. But he was saying Russia disinformation. And now that the story has come out, what is he saying now? Oh, Donald Trump is trying to get back at me. Well, I don't think so, because if he wanted to get back at you, don't you think he would have thrown this out there when you were trying to impeach him? But the media, no curiosity. They don't think about this. So I am not surprised when you two gentlemen are telling me attacked Charles on camera, nothing about it, but to say, oh, it was a peaceful demonstration. I am not at all shocked when you tell me, Joe, that Maxine Waters sent thugs, and yes, there were thugs out to intimidate you, and the media complete crickets. I am not surprised when this happened to great patriots like yourselves, young patriots like yourself, and the media chooses not to cover it, but they want to say that, oh, nothing to see here. I am not surprised. The media is the enemy of the people. I went to journalism school, and Journalism 101 says to get all the facts, and they did not do that. What do you say, Bebe?
No, you're absolutely right. The journalism in the United States is basically dead. They're not doing Journalism 101. Well, who, what, when, where, how. They're not even asking those critical questions. They're more advocates or activists than they are journalists.
Right.
So it's a major problem. Part of the problem may be that some of our media, I don't know how much, is owned by China, foreign interests. So that may be part of it. I mean, you have Politico who put out this story, well, it's Russia disinformation campaign. And then now it's, well, Hunter Biden is under investigation. We can't trust the media, period. I mean, it's astonishing. But Charles, I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Rob. I want to ask Charles a question.
Sure.
Were you at the Million Mega March earlier this month, and then you went Saturday as well?
Yeah,
because I know they have footage from that earlier march this month in which patriots were beaten up by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Was it better this time? It's a weird question, but was it better? Was the violence less?
Oh, so here's how I'm going to answer this. I'm going to say they were more violent, but in terms of Antifa being able to come into the perimeter, like last time, Freedom Plaza, Antifa was able to set Freedom Plaza literally on fire. They literally set the vendors on fire. This time, they weren't able to make it that far. And actually, midnight last night, there was a huge dance party just in the streets outside Freedom Plaza between the JW Marriott and Freedom Plaza. And it was just hundreds of patriots from across the country just dancing, from Christmas songs to they were playing Black Eyed Peas. So every March I think we make in DC, we make more strides. But that's not to say there was not tons of hate. Friday night, for example, I live in the DC area, and we had friends coming in, my girlfriend and I, and we met up with them. We had dinner, and then I don't even know how these people found a golf cart, but I guess the one tourist golf cart in Washington, D.C. we found, and he picked us up and he drove us around. And my friends were taking pictures, right, of the monuments. And the normal DC elites outside walking their dogs screamed F-bombs to them, screamed terrible things. There was a woman with us, and they were screaming terrible things. And no one was wearing any Trump shirts. There were no Trump stickers on the golf cart. No one was screaming Trump things. But the local DC media all this week just played up this march and played up that if you see someone in town, they're in for the march. So if you're walking your dog and you see someone taking a picture of a monument you walk past every day, you're just going to assume they're a tourist. And that's why they were just screaming at people. And what's concerning is the people Friday night who were screaming at us, they work in their bureaucracies. They work in the FBI. They're Democrat staffers. These people actually have real power, and they're acting no better than Antifa in terms of their derogatory language to conservatives. And I think that was the most concerning thing I saw all weekend.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wow. Thanks for that.
This should not be happening in America. Patriots should not be attacked. Why is it that liberals can go out and they can protest, they can burn things down, and nothing happens? But the moment conservatives go out, they are attacked, and the media will have us to believe, oh, nothing to see here. This is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And you two still have the tenacity, the faith to get up and go about your day-to-day lives and have faith in this country. And you, Joe, continue to run. Like you said, you're not going to let this stop you. You're going to keep going. So Maxine Waters didn't win. She's not going to scare you off. And for that, I am thankful. I am glad that you're not going to allow her to stop you, because that's probably what she wants to do. She wants to stop you. She wants to make you afraid. She does not want you to get out there. She does not want you to challenge her, which is sad. It's really sad that we have people in today's society, these individuals who are supposed to be Americans, threatening and scaring other Americans because they don't want to give up that little cushiony job that they have. She doesn't want to give it up. It's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. There she is right there. I have her on the, I want everyone to see her. Just in case you've been living under a rock somewhere, that's Maxine Waters, who's been in Congress for how long? How long did you say, Joe? She's been for 47 years?
45 years right now.
45, think of this. She's been there for 45 years. Joe Biden, 47 plus years. He got absolutely nothing done but created laws to put more blacks in jail. And now they want him to be the president. She has been there for about 40 plus years. She has done absolutely nothing but change her wigs every decade, I'd say. But yet and still, people are still putting them in office. We got to wake up, folks. We have got to wake up and stop this, because this is completely unacceptable. I mean, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Charles, tell us more about the rally that you attended on Saturday. How was it?
So then after Friday, we came to Saturday, and I want to describe it as, I grew up in Ohio my entire life around Big Ten football. Maybe Joe, USC football, you can get the reference. Big Ten football tailgate, 9 a.m. Everyone was up in the streets. I'll say I saw some supporters just having fun, grilling food, drinking like they were about to go to their local college football game that all these governors banned from going. So I guess they decided to come to a Trump rally, which is great. There was just so much love in the air. I thought it was real cool. Within 2 minutes of standing around Freedom Plaza, you could see the whole base. Just so many different Americans from so many different backgrounds from all across the country. And like I said, it was a snapshot. You could see it within 2 minutes. And the most unforgettable moment during the entire rally was when President Trump flew over a Marine One during the national.
I saw that. Yeah,
that was
pretty dope.
I'm never ever gonna forget that. How close the helicopter was to everybody. Everyone was shaking. Everyone had so much excitement. And I think it was a real pick-me-up because a lot of people were feeling down after what the Supreme Court said on Friday.
Right.
But Friday night, like I said, people started conjugating, talking, and then Saturday, the energy was right back up. And what was really cool about this past Saturday was there was 2 or 3 different marches going on spread all around D.C., and then they all kind of converged to the Supreme Court. So it was kind of like conservatives had the whole town. And going back to our conversation on the news, and especially the fake Washington media, they act like it's a pain that conservatives have the town for the weekend. Well, let me tell you, as someone who lives in the Washington area, this is one of the few weekends I could go to town and walk around and not worry about having to get beat up or yelled at. 4th of July, for example, me and a bunch of conservative staffers were just hanging out watching the fireworks, and BLM walked by and they said, put your fist up, and none of us put our fist up, and then they just started cussing at us and saying F Trump, F this, and we never said anything to them. And like I said, the media acts like, oh, these conservatives are taking the town over. Well, BLM and Antifa take Washington, D.C. over every weekend, and they can't let Trump supporters have it once every other month, and they go crazy.
Right. Well, I want to say that I want to thank you both for being here. Thank you, definitely, Joe, for being with us. Joe has got to run. He has another engagement. I want to say to you, Joe, keep the faith, stay in the race. We really appreciate your service. Just, keep doing what you're doing and don't give up. What would you like to say, Bebe?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. You're American heroes and patriots, and we appreciate your time. It was an honor to have you on. God bless you both.
Okay, Joe.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
God bless you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
So, Charles, we still have you here. If you can stay on for a little while longer.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, so you can continue sharing with us your story about, what you experienced in DC.
Yeah, so the rally just continued on during the day. Everyone was loving, everyone was having a good time. There was no Antifa to be found. And then at around 3, 4 o'clock, just like last time, they started showing up. But they weren't able to infiltrate like they did. Obviously, I think I read they stabbed 4 Trump supporters last night. They were able to throw some fireworks. They were really nasty on Friday night, like I said, screaming and stuff.
Right. So Charles, let me just make sure I'm understanding, because I did hear this on, I think it was One American News this evening before I was getting ready to come on air, that Trump supporters, that there was a scuffle and that some Trump supporters were stabbed. Now,
Yeah.
the mainstream media, liberal media, they were saying that some people were stabbed, but they didn't identify. But these were Trump supporters who were stabbed.
Yeah, that's everything I heard. And like I said, I saw the ambulances come. They were near the Harry's Hotel area, which was one of the Harry's Hotel, by the way, is one of the only bars that conservative staffers can hang out around Washington D.C. And that's kind of where the ambulances came by.
Right.
Like I said, if they were Trump supporters stabbing,
it'd
be all over the news.
We'll be all over the news. Absolutely.
Crazed Trump supporters come to D.C. maskless, stabbing innocent Antifa protesters. That'd be their number one story. So it was them. And my thinking is they always strike when it's, I guess, we're the weakest in numbers. Friday night, for example, it was, like I said, bureaucrats and staffers screaming at people, which I think that was more concerning because these people are in positions of power. But the actual violence, they weren't really seen much on Friday, and they didn't come up till Saturday until the numbers started to dwindle and people went back to their hotel rooms, and then they came out in full force.
Right.
And like I said earlier, if you were involved in any of these violence, just please look me up on social media at the Charles Downs, and we should discuss more because this should not be happening in Washington.
It shouldn't be. And I put that up.
Whatever you want, and this goes to BLM too. Like if BLM wants to protest peacefully, that's completely fine. That's what makes America so great. But that's not happening in Washington, D.C. right now. That hasn't been happening for the last probably 2 years.
And that's really unfortunate. I put your contact information up on the screen, and I'm showing a picture right now of you and your girlfriend when you were assaulted. This should not be happening. It shouldn't happen on either side. It shouldn't happen to conservatives or to liberals. People should be able to protest peacefully. And the fact that you and your girlfriend were accosted a month ago, that is, and they still haven't apprehended the perpetrators is most unfortunate. And it has to stop. It definitely has to stop because it's not right. And I'm going to put your information up again so that people can contact you if something like this has happened to them. This must stop. It must stop immediately, because this is America. This is not some third world country whereby people go out and, and this should not be.
And I think the fact that there haven't been any consequences to these people's actions in Washington, D.C. just keeps empowering them to be more and more violent. Like I said, they weren't able to infiltrate this time, but they came out stabbing people. That is a step above from what they did last time. And they did that because they were empowered, because 12 million people watched an individual hit a girl. 12 million people watched people throw unknown liquids on us during a pandemic. And there were no consequences.
No consequences.
Consequences to the actions, then they're going to keep going. So that's why I think anyone who's been attacked in Washington, D.C., we all need to band together, because it's just not enough for one of our voices to be talking. We got to be a team. Just kind of like what the state AGs did, even though it hasn't worked yet. We all have to come together as a conservative family, because if we don't, they're going to trample us. But if we come together and hold the line, I think we can accomplish almost anything. And I think it starts with holding people accountable who have been who are going around Washington, D.C. and assaulting people over free speech. That cannot happen in the United States of America, and it's time we all come together and stop it.
Right. What do you say, Bebe?
Sorry, guys, I was on mute. But
Oh,
I
no worries.
applaud your bravery. I mean, I think I saw that clip where your girlfriend and you were under attack. That's horrible. And for the DC police, I know we had the march in December, the DC police offered no protection, and I'm assuming they offered no protection yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, something must be done. And I agree with you. Those who are victims of an assault should come together, regardless of your party affiliation, because violence against fellow Americans cannot stand. It's outrageous. Thank you for being so brave, Charles. I think it takes a lot of guts to do what you did. You and your girlfriend are both brave people.
Right.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that.
True patriots. Well, that's all I have now. Bebe, did you have anything else that you wanted to share or go over?
No, not at this time. We'll discuss it maybe on Tuesday night about the Supreme Court. But I thank you, Charles, for coming on and for being a patriot. That gives me hope for the future. Young people are standing up, and I appreciate it. And God bless you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely want to thank you, Charles, for coming on, and definitely come back and share with us your stories, because you are out there in the front lines, and you're seeing a lot of things that we can't see. And we definitely want our viewers and our listeners to be able to hear what you have to say, and others that are out there. If there's anyone who has a story that you would like to share with us, please get in contact with me or myself at Small Town Andrew, or me at RobJH1 on Twitter. Join us again on Tuesday when our guest will be Anna Hyatt. She has been out there. She's at the forefront, very active, conservative young lady, and she will be sharing with us some of her stories. She'll be with us on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we'll have Heather Robinson, who is a writer for the New York Post. She'll be sharing some stories with us, as well as Howard Freeman. He'll be back giving us a breakdown of some of the numbers from the election. And we'll also have Ed Ray Poetry. He will grace us with some of his poetry. So thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for listening to us. Please share the replay. Be safe out there. Never give in. President Trump is still the president, and we support him. We support him non-violently, and we're not going to give up. We're going to stay in the race until the very end, because we've come too far to quit now. So be blessed, be safe, have a great week. And again, thank you for joining us. Have a safe night. Thank you.
See you, everyone.